Hi everyone, this is Sandra. Welcome to Christmas at the Schwowin's Nest. I'm so glad you're here. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you could click that button. Now let's get crafting. My first project is going to be using this vintage designed newspaper print that I found on Creative Fabrica. I'll have my link available for you down in the description box, and I'll tell you what you've got to search for. So this was really fun to use. I decided to print these off on rice paper, and now I'm just going to tear them into strips because I want to decoupage this onto my ornament. I'm going to use Mod Podge to apply the paper to my ornament, and I'm going to use a fairly thick amount because the rice paper is a little bit thicker than regular decoupage paper or tissue paper, and my ornament is pretty slick, so I want to make sure that it sticks well. I haven't sealed this rice paper, so if any wetness comes on the top of it, it will run a little bit. So if you want to seal it yours with some hairspray or maybe just even a little bit of a clear spray sealer that you might have, that would work fine. Of course, going to get wrinkles because we're putting a flat piece of paper onto a round object, but I'm okay with that because this is a vintage look and this is what I liked. The other thing is if you get any glue on your fingers and you start touching the paper where your glue on your finger is, you're going to start pulling that paper off. So you have to be just really careful how you do this. Just take your time and make sure that everything has a little bit of Mod Podge on it so it will stay down. Once I got to some of the smaller sections towards the end, I ended up just tearing my pieces of paper down a little bit smaller so they would fit and I wouldn't have too much overlapping. I didn't want this to turn out thick, so I just made sure that I trimmed where I needed to. I didn't do a lot of these ornaments. I think I only did 3 in this size, but I really love how they turned out. Now I'm going to show you what my tree looks like with all of these vintage ornaments on it at the end. So stay tuned. For these next ornaments, I'm going to be using some old book pages. These are a really nice old vintage yellowy faded kind of color, so I thought they would be perfect. I'm cutting the pages into strips about an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter. And what I'm going to do is just fold it over in half and create a loop. I'm going to do that 5 times, and then I'll just use my stapler to staple them together. This is what they look like. I have these elongated pine cones that are on the smaller side. I'm going to glue one on each side of the paper roll, and then I'm going to add a bead on top, and this turns out so cute. I actually had no idea what I was creating when I was doing this. As I was moving along, I thought, wow, this kind of looks like a little angel. So I grabbed a wooden bead and then I took a piece of this creamy colored twine and pushed both ends of the twine into the little hole, glued it in there. That would become the loop to hang the ornament. And then I hot glued the little bead right on top of the pine cones, and it turned out so adorable. I just absolutely love these. I found these white jingle bells in a pack of 12 at my local dollar store. It was some type of craft necklace thing, but what I'm going to do is create some rusty jingle bells out of these. Now I'm using my honey brown paint, which is from Americana Paints. I love this color. You could also do this in a jar. Just put your paint in and your jingle bells in, close the top of the jar, shake them up. You want to get them somewhat covered, but they don't have to be completely covered. I'm using my Cricut weeding tool just to get these onto some skewers without actually touching them and then wiping off some of the paint. It's a little bit tricky, but it can be done. Now that they're dry, I'm going to put them back in the bowl and add some burnt umber paint. This was a little too much for my first one. You don't want to add that much because you want some of that orange to peek through as well. And these ones ended up being completely covered in brown. What I do next is a little different than what I've seen other creators do. I know a lot of people use cinnamon to create that rusty kind of textured look, but I am using paprika and it just really gives it a much deeper color, a more of an orange and realistic rust looking. And when you jiggle it around in the bowl again, it actually lends a little bit more texture to the jingle bells as well, giving it all in all a better rustic look. I think pine cones are the ultimate primitive, vintage, or rustic farmhouse, whatever you want to call them, decor for Christmas. And I happen to have a huge bag of them. In the summertime, I found a few trees in a public lot that had spit out their pine cones, and there were hundreds of them on the ground, and I think I grabbed at least 100, maybe 150 in my bag. So I've got tons of them, and I just thought I'm going to glue the two ends together like this and just create some simple little ornaments to put on my tree. Then, keeping with the theme of my video today, I just took some drop cloth, I cut it in strips, and now I'm going to cut even smaller strips. I'm just going to put these in some simple shoestring bows, glue them in the center of the two pine cones, and have some tails hanging down. Really simple, but really pretty. And like I said, rustic, primitive, farmhouse, vintage, beautiful. This was a much shorter video than I normally do, but these ornaments were simple, quick, and easy, and this is how they look on my tree. I'm so happy with how my tree looks this year. It's kind of simple, kind of on the plain side, maybe for some people, but I just love the rustic, natural feel of it. To start this first project, I'm just going to be painting some of these MDF wood pieces. These are the same type of wood pieces that you can get from the Dollar Tree. All of their signs are made out of this. And I'm just taking some white paint and I'm going to give it a very rough coat. I want it to be a little streaky and not 100% white. I'm using a chip brush that has some paint on it. It's a really rough stippling brush, and I'm going to dry brush some strokes all along these pieces. This is just going to make them look like some distressed rustic wood. Now I'm taking this 2-inch burlap ribbon that comes from the Dollar Tree as well. I'm going to cut off a piece and then just glue it into the center of each of the boards. I'm just going to lay it down on the back and then fold those pieces over. They are wired, so it's easy to fold them over. Just make sure you don't burn yourself because the glue comes right through that burlap. Today's video is also sponsored by Costway. They are a beautiful home store. Everything you need for your home, they probably have it, but I'll have more on that in a little bit. Now I'm going to take some red and black gingham ribbon. This is also from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue that in the center of each of the burlap strips. That's just going to make a little collection of ornaments, and I just thought they were so cute this way. I found these little white wood letters at a dollar store close to my cottage. I'm going to be adding them to the strip of red and black gingham. I'm not using hot glue because I did put the first letter down with hot glue and it just oozes out everywhere. So I decided to use my medium thickness Starbond glue and just place them down. It does take about 30 seconds or so for the glue to set up, but that's okay. I'm just going to take my time and make sure I don't bump them when I put down the next letter. I'm going to put bright on one, merry on another one, and then Christmas on the third. To embellish these little ornaments, I'm going to be using some of this Boxwood greenery. I got these in the summer and they had some little teeny white flowers at the end of them. I was able to just pull those off and I think this is perfect for the winter season. Boxwood is an evergreen, so it's green all year round and I just love the look of it. So I'm just kind of putting them in sort of a little bit of a Christmas tree shape. You can see the one to the left there, the Mary, it already is completed and it just kind of turned out that way, but it does look like a little Christmas tree. I'm going to continue gluing on these pieces and then add 2 of my little mini hemlock pine cones to the top. And then with the Christmas one, I'm going to do something a little different. For the Christmas one, the sign is a little bigger and the word Christmas I put right in the center. So I'm just going to create a little swag on the top. Again, the same Boxwood greenery, but this time for the pine cone, I'm going to use one of the larger ones that you can get at the Dollar Tree. And this one has a little bit of a snow-kissed look to it. To hang these ornaments, I decided to take a piece of twine and thread on some jingle bells and then glue them to the edges of each of the signs. I really love the look of the jingle bells. I think if I was doing this again, I would probably do a full strand of jingle bells instead of just having 5 or 6 of them and make it look like a full hanger of jingle bells. I think that would look really pretty as well. If you've been with me for a while, you know I love rustic things, especially wood. I love to work with wood. And I found these wood slices on Amazon. If I can find the link, I will add that to my description box. I'm just going to give them a really rough coat of white paint, not going all the way to the edge because I want some of that natural wood to peek through too. About a month ago, I made the investment and purchased the IOD crockery stamps. I really love all the details on these stamps. And even though I do like to recreate my own a little bit differently, I wanted to have these originals because the details on these are absolutely gorgeous. What I used to do is just create it in Google Drawings and then print it off on tissue paper. But I really like the ease and simplicity of being able to just stamp on my projects. You can find these at a local reseller or online at some of the resellers, but you can also find a lot of really nice clear stamps like this on Amazon. So don't be afraid to just go and check things out. If I find something similar, I will link them down in my description box. Now I'm just using a baby wipe to clean off the ink right away. You don't want that to dry on your stamp because then that will make the details not so clean and crisp the next time you use them. I'm going to use some black and white gingham ribbon, and this I got at the Dollar Tree. And I'm also going to use some black and red gingham ribbon on 2 of them. Some boxwood greenery and then some of these red berries and some pine cones, and I'm going to just dress these up. For the hanger, I'm just going to use a small piece of twine and simply hot glue a loop onto the back of it. I love how these turned out. They're rustic, they're vintage looking, and they're going to be beautiful on my tree this year. This next project is super easy and super cute. I've got these 4 coasters that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. They were in my stash, so I'm not sure if they still carry them now, but I like them because they have the burnt edges and I really love that rustic look. I just used a little bit of red acrylic paint to paint the inside, and now I'm going to just use a glue stick and glue on this round circle with the tree cutout. I printed off a bunch of black and white buffalo check and a couple of other patterns of paper on some cardstock just using my regular printer. Then I took the paper over to my Cricut and cut out these designs. I designed the circles and the trees, and I will have those available as a free printable down in my description box. The paper patterns I got from Creative Fabrica, and if I can find the link to these, I'll put it down in my description box. If not, you just go to the Creative Fabrica website and type in Buffalo Plaid, and you'll get all sorts of options to download. For the next plaid pattern, I decided to use a stain. This is just some burnt umber acrylic paint and a little bit of water, and I put it in a little dropper bottle as you can see here. Just makes it easy because I use this a lot and then it's already mixed up for me. For the red and black buffalo check pattern, I decided to use green, and this is just an acrylic paint from the dollar store. It's a hunter green color. I'm putting it on really lightly because I do want a little bit of that wood grain to show through. If you wanted to do it more of a stain, just add a little bit of water first and then put your green on and it will be more of a stain. But I really love how these all turned out. I kept them simple and just added some different colors of twine as hangers, just created a loop with a knot and hot glued those to the top. These are so adorable, and I can imagine all the different possibilities that you could do and different shapes as well. This last project is using some scrap fabric that I have and some ribbon. I cut out two pieces of the white rectangle fabric and I'm gluing on some of this gingham ribbon to make it look like a present. I'll do the same thing for the other piece of fabric. I'm laying the fabric with the right sides together and I'm going to use my hot glue to glue the edges together. I'm going to leave one of the short ends open so I can stuff it and create a little pillow. With hot glue, it's really easy to burn yourself because the fabric gets hot as well. So please make sure that you're careful. I usually kind of tap it like I am with my finger here or rubbing it so my finger doesn't stay in one spot for very long. Make sure you get the corners really well because once we put this right side out, you want to make sure that those corners don't pop. Give the hot glue a chance to set up and trim off any excess with your fabric scissors. Now take your time putting this right side out. You really want to go slow and make sure that you don't pull too hard because that will release the glue and then you'll have to start all over again. I just really take my time. I use my fingers and I don't use any other implements to push out the corners. It just takes a little bit of extra time, but it's worth it. Now that it's all ready to go, I'm going to take some pillow stuffing. I just go to Walmart and I grab one of their really cheap bed pillows. You can usually get them for $3 or $4, and that's what I use to stuff all of my projects. Now I'm going to go right into the corner with this, and I like to kind of lay it flat down on the table and spread it out a little bit as well, just to make sure that I don't have any holes anywhere. I want this to be nice and fluffy and smooth everywhere. To close this little pillow up, I'm going to start on the side seams, just put a little dab of hot glue and then fold down the edge about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and that's really going to help me to form my little hem that I need to use. I'm going to do the same thing in the center where the ribbon is, and that's just, again, going to help me just get a really nice straight seam. I'm going to start in the center with some hot glue and then just pinch those ribbon ends together. Add a little bit more hot glue into the seams. It's already folded down for me, and all I have to do is pinch it closed. I'll do this for both sides. To embellish this little guy, I'm just going to add some of these frosted cedar branches, a pine cone, and a few of these little red pip berries. Then I'm going to glue some black and white butcher twine as a hanger, and these turned out so cute. I like that they're simple. They're pretty. They're something that you can tuck into the inside of your tree because they're still large enough that you'd be able to see them. And I think I might make a few more of these using some different colored ribbons. You could also use some plaid fabric with some plain ribbon. I think those would be pretty too. To make it easier to glue on the butcher twine to the pillow, I just tie a few knots down at the bottom and that just gives something for the hot glue to grip onto. It also prevents your twine from fraying. I picked up these two metal stars from a garage sale in the summer. I'm going to give them one coat of red chalk paint, and it's not going to be a very thick coat. You're going to see some of that previous color come through, and that's the look I was going for. I just wanted them to look old and weathered. If you've been following me on my channel, you know that I love working with wood projects. I picked up these stars from the Dollar Tree, and these are also something new this year from the Dollar Tree, a set of 4 hanging snowflakes. I'm just going to take 2 from each style. My color is ready to go, and I'm just going to use a brush to apply it to all of these wood pieces, front and back. I love using my own stains and creating them. You can use all sorts of different colors. You can use gray, brown, black. You can mix them all together. This is sort of a grayish brown color, and I really love it. It's nice and rustic. These garland pieces are left over from a full garland that I bought at the thrift store last year for about $4. And it's a little bit of a lighter green color than the garland you can get at the Dollar Tree. What I'm doing here is cutting it down because when you cut it down, it makes it look way more high end. It's not so fluffy and it really fits onto smaller projects nicely. You can see the difference already between the one that I'm cutting and the one that is just sitting above at the bottom of the screen here. They're really pretty when you put them together like that, and you can see the difference that just a little bit of a haircut makes. I'm going to decorate each of these ornaments with the same materials, but a little differently for each one. So I'm going to start off with this star, and I'm going to take 2 or 3 pieces of the greenery and hot glue them down. I'll add 1 or 2 pine cones and then some of the red pip berries. I did half of the ornaments with red and white twine for the hanger and red pip berries, and now I'm going to use just regular jute twine and some white little frosted balls. I tied the hangers on each of the ornaments the same way, fed it through the hole, tied it in a double knot, and then tied the ends off just using, I don't even know what you call this knot, but I just took both of the pieces together, looped them around my finger, and then pulled them through and cut off any excess. For this snowflake, I'm going to go in the center rather than at the top. And I think I put 3 or 4 greenery picks on here. Again, a couple of pine cones, but then I switch out and use those white frosted little balls. I just love crafting with birdhouses, and I usually make at least one for every season. And I realized today that I haven't made one yet for the Christmas season. I did something, I think, for Christmas in July, but not now. So I'm taking this one that I picked up from the dollar store, and I've got a really fine tipped felt marker. Using a popsicle stick, I'm just going to draw some shiplap lines all the way around all 4 sides. Using the same stain, I'm just going to cover the body, so all 4 sides, but I'm going to do the roof and the bottom a different color. I set that first birdhouse aside, and now I'm going to work on this round one. This one I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to do the roof and the bottom little portion of it in the stain, and then paint the body of it a different color. The ornaments for my tree this year are going to be rustic with browns and reds and greens. A little bit of white sparkled in every once in a while. So I decided to grab my Deco Art paint again in the color Romance and paint the lid completely red. I'm also going to do the edges on the sides and underneath. And once I'm done that, I'm going to do the bottom portion. So just where the house is actually standing on, there's a little piece of wood, and I'll do that as well. And you've probably figured out that the red is going to be on the body of this round birdhouse. There's also a little second lip right underneath the roof line, and I'm going to paint that black as well as the little perch that the birdie would sit on. For the first birdhouse, I did paint the perch and the inside of the holes with red. I'm going to use the same garland that I gave a little haircut to for around the bottom of this birdhouse. And now on this one corner, I'm just going to add a couple of little pine cones and then a few little pip berries. I also decided to add a little bit of greenery into each of the holes, And then I added this cute little bird that I picked up from my local dollar store. I've got a whole bag of them in different sizes, and I thought that would be so cute for this birdhouse. Then I decided the top looked a little plain, so I added some more greenery there as well. I did pretty much the same thing for the little round birdhouse, added some of that greenery to the very bottom edge, and then I added some to the top of it towards the peak. Again, some greenery, some pine cones, and a couple of little berries. Here's one of those little wood bird cutouts that I mentioned with the other birdhouse, but I forgot to show that to you. So I just decided to add a larger one to this one because the hole on this birdhouse is a little bigger. But I love how these turned out, and they're going to look so pretty on my tree. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you're looking for more Christmas inspiration, check out my Christmas playlist. Bye for now.